All right, so first series win of the year, check. First sweep of the year, check. We'll talk about how the Mariners got it done coming up here on the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Wednesday, April 17th, 2024. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners postgame show brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. That's pretty cool. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's LOCKEDON to get yourself started. Thank you so much for making us your first listen after the Mariners 5-1 win over the Reds. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you after a big Mariners win and a Mariners sweep. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. And the Mariners, of course, like I mentioned, sweep the Reds to close out a 4-2 homestand. They'll get a day off tomorrow. They'll begin a 3-game weekend set with the Rockies down in Denver on Friday. It was another brilliant start for Bryce Miller this afternoon. Just makes the one mistake to Elly De La Cruz on the slider, which was the only hit for the Reds all game long, folks. They only had 2 base runners in this game in total. Dominant performance by the Seattle Mariners. Now, Colby, we are starting to see this team finally get it together, I think, and play quality baseball across the board. They played some really good defense today. Luis Arias with a fantastic play over in the hot corner. A lot of fun to watch these past 3 games.
I'm a little disappointed, to be honest. I thought for sure
we were going
to see, a young, super talented team with high-flying athletes who just make amazing defensive plays and steal bases and hit home runs, and they have all these exciting arms and a bullpen full of fastball velo. And, instead, I guess the Cincinnati Reds decided to be the Louisville Bats and send their AAA team up here because the Seattle Mariners absolutely demolished the Reds in this 3-game set. It was almost boring how easy the wins were for the Mariners last night, notwithstanding, but only the 9th inning. So
9th inning was pretty interesting last night.
Got a little dicey. Got a little dicey.
Yeah.
Ty France forgot, this is a baseball. I picked this up and I touched the base and we win. Oh, no, can't do that.
It was about midnight last night. I was pacing around this room. Once the bases got loaded, I was like, oh. Nick Martini came up. I remembered what he did last September against this team. I got a little scared, but
sauce, baby.
It all worked out. Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. But it was about as clean of a 3-game series as you could possibly imagine. The Mariners give up 5 runs in the 3-game set. They scored, I believe, 17 in the 3-game set. We saw them make a ton of contact. We saw them draw a lot of walks. We saw homers. We saw doubles. We saw some speed. We saw some great defense, and we saw just utterly dominant starting pitching and a bullpen that's, doing its best to hold down the reins until the big guns get back. And it has looked dominant at times. There have been some dominant performances. Look at Gabe Spire today. It's really, this was a series against a pretty good roster, a roster that in theory is not a great matchup for Seattle because they run around a lot. They make a lot of things happen. You have to be very clean defensively because they have a ton of speed and a ton of power. And the Reds were the ones who made mistakes, and the Mariners just played super clean baseball in, all 3 games. And they come out with their first, not only their first series win, but their first sweep of the year. And now they have a little bit of momentum, and they go and they get to play Colorado, who's not very good. We know that doesn't matter on a night-to-night basis.
Sure.
But you have to feel pretty good about where you're at and where you're headed this weekend. So chance for the Mariners to get right, get to 500 or better this weekend. And it's all set up by a really good sweep. And, just kind of understates how close we were to a 4-game winning streak and being in first place. If anybody could have just stepped up and gotten a base hit with the bases loaded twice in back-to-back innings. 2 opportunities to do it, and they couldn't. But they won 3 in a row. They went 4-2 on the homestand, which is, I think, what we wanted. Didn't exactly, go the way we thought it might. You kind of like 2-2, win a couple series, but hey, this works too. And now you're only one game below 500, and the vibes have just done a complete 180.
Yeah, impressive sweep against a very talented team, a team that took 2 of 3 against you last September. I think we all remember how frustrating that series was. But
I don't at all.
Yeah, that's right.
September didn't happen.
Yeah, I would love to erase that from my memory banks, but alas. All right, so let's talk about Bryce Miller. I know you've been very impressed with what you've seen out of Miller so far here in the early going this season, and he was great once again today. Again, like I mentioned, just the one mistake to Elly De La Cruz. That's the only damage done against Miller. 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, over 6 innings pitched. His ERA is now down to 1.85. He only gave up 3 hard hit balls in total in this game. So talk a little bit about his start.
Yeah, 91 pitches. It was a very fastball heavy approach, and this is something that we saw from Logan Gilbert last night, and we saw from George Kirby in game 1. The Mariners very clearly wanted to make it a point to establish the fastball, which is something they've tried to do all year, but really haven't been able to do it except for the last 7 or so starts. But 44% 4-seam fastball, 21% 2-seam fastball or sinker. So 65% fastball for Bryce Miller. That's about what you would expect from Miller most of the time. The interesting thing about Bryce today is that he only had 6 whiffs total. That's not good. A 16% whiff rate, that is not good. But he had 21 called strikes, and that's a 27 called strike plus whiff, which is a 30% called strike plus whiff percentage, which is pretty good. 20 foul balls, only 12 balls put in play. And like you said, only 3 of them hard hit. So it was a really good command and control. Strike zone, he had a situation where he walked a guy where he should have struck him out. He had struck him out 2 pitches earlier. So, strike zone wasn't great, but Bryce Miller sure was. And you look at what happened. He threw 40 4-seam fastballs, right? Against a lefty heavy lineup. They put the fastball in play once. 1 fastball in play the entire
That's
game.
incredible.
He threw 40 of them.
Yeah.
14 foul balls on that, 8 called strikes, 4 whiffs. The fastball really ate today, and he got it. He threw it up in the zone. He threw it at the knees. He threw it inside and outside. Like he was hitting the corners. He stayed out of the middle of the plate. And then it's just kind of a general pitch mix here, right? 44% 4-seam, but then 21% sinker, 19% split, 13% sweeper, 3% three sliders. Like I still don't think that Statcast is very good at like separating those 2 pitches.
Right.
So it's hard to say, but anyway, you want to look at it. 15, it's 19 sinkers, 17 splitters, and then we'll call it 15 breaking balls. So really even mix. Interesting note here. The Reds didn't put a ball in play above 85.7 miles per hour on the splitter or the sweeper. So hard hit balls were were 1 on the fastball, the only one that was hit, 1 on the sinker, and then the slider to De La Cruz that was crushed. So Bryce was exceptional, and it really does continue a run of excellence here 4 times through. Right now, I mean, the month ended today, he's probably the American League Pitcher of the Month. So it has been just domination, and I talked about this after his last start on our Patreon show, that like it appears that the Mariners might have a big 4 way sooner than we anticipated, and we still haven't seen what Brian Wu can bring to the table yet. So it's been 7 starts in a row. The Mariners have been excellent. They've gotten excellent starting pitching, and Bryce Miller, has been excellent in 3 starts and pretty good in his 4th start. So just kind of a continuation, and it's a continued growth of Mariners pitching today. And Miller, again, just throwing a ton of strikes, but good quality strikes, dominating with the fastball, and then just kind of understanding how to pitch. These are all very cerebral pitchers that the Mariners have in their rotation. And it shows by how they keep on constantly tweaking and changing things and trying new things and finding success with them. It is a credit to how the Mariners draft and develop and all that stuff. And Miller's just yet another shining example of the Mariners. They're pretty good at this. You should probably start giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely. So also got to shout out Trent Thornton, Gabe Spire, Austin Voth. They combined for 5 strikeouts over the last 3 innings of this game. Gabe Spire doing the heavy lifting there with 3 strikeouts in his dominant outing, which was really nice to see because his velo's been down the last couple times out. He hasn't looked great. His command's kind of been a little iffy, but he was fantastic this afternoon at T-Mobile Park.
9 sliders, 5 swings, 5 whiffs.
Couple swords in there.
Yep. 78% called strike plus whiff rate on the slider. The fastball velo was down for him again today, but not nearly as much as it was the other day. So again, just something to monitor, something to keep an eye on. But yeah, overall, Mariners pitching today, 12 strikeouts, 1 walk.
Yep. That dominate the zone to a T. Yep, absolutely. All right, so we're going to talk about this offense now, which was really good again today in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks and Monopoly Go. Spring training is over and baseball season is in full swing. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBI, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. You can also get in on the basketball playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a whole new level during the postseason. Speaking of hoops, I'm taking Domantas Sabonis more than 18.5 points and De'Aaron Fox less than 27.5 points against the Pelicans on Friday. Download PrizePicks today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. I'm a very competitive person, and my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. But if not, it's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties just like classic Monopoly, but now I can also rob their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Thank you again for making us your first listen after the Mariners 5-1 victory over the Cincinnati Reds to secure their first sweep of 2024. Let's talk about this offense, Colby. The messaging from Scott Service the last few days has been the hitters have bought in a little bit more. He's talked about how they're not looking at the iPads as much and focusing on their previous at-bats in games. They've been taking to some of the hitting meetings a little bit more than they had in previous series. And the results have been fantastic over the last 3 games after, the disaster that was Sunday afternoon. We don't need to talk about that. But contributions from pretty much everyone in this series. Really, really good series for this offense. What were your impressions of this lineup?
Yeah, it's something that I noticed right away that's kind of starting to become a little bit of a trend as of late. The Mariners, yes, they struck out 9 times today, but they walked 7. They walked 7 times. It does feel like they're putting up more quality at-bats. They're seeing more pitches. They're drawing walks. They're putting pressure on the opposing pitcher. And today, Abbott was the first guy to be able to go full 6 against the Mariners in a while. And I think that's a credit to just kind of the approach of like, hey, wait for your pitch and foul stuff off, try and get to a good count, just trying to keep an at-bat alive. And so this is kind of a continuation. So one of the things that really jumped out to me right away in this entire series was the strikeout to walk ratio offensively. Pretty good. The other thing that jumps out right away, particularly from today's game, is the power is starting to arrive for the Mariners. 3 home runs today. Julio also had 2 doubles, so 5 extra base hits. 6 if you count Dylan Moore's bloop triple, which is a fun thing to say. So 6 extra base hits. They did a lot of damage. They only had 7 hits total. 6 of them went for extra bases. And when you add in the walks and just the continuation of pressure put on this pitching staff, 2 of them went for extra bases. And when you add in the walks and just the continuation of pressure put on this pitching staff, 2 of them went for extra bases. And when you add in the walks and just the continuation of pressure put on this pitching staff, 2 of them went for extra bases. And when you add in the walks and just the continuation of pressure put on this pitching staff, 2 of them went for extra bases. And when you add in the walks and just the continuation of pressure put on this pitching staff, 2 of them went for extra bases. And when you add in the walks and just the continuation of pressure put on this pitching staff, 2 of them went for extra bases. And when you add in the walks and just the continuation of pressure put on this pitching staff, 2 of them went for extra bases. And when you add in the walks and just the continuation of pressure put on this pitching staff, 2 of them went for extra bases. And when you add in the walks and just the continuation of pressure put on this pitching staff, 2 of them went for extra bases. And when you add in the walks and just the continuation of It all adds up to 5 runs. And we talk about this all the time. If you could score 5 runs a game, you're going to win 95, 100 games with your pitching. And that's exactly what happened today. So it was just a really good, fun continuation. Not a ton of hard hit balls in this game, but again, just quality at bats and just kind of finding a way. When you get a mistake, don't miss it. Hit it hard, do damage on it, but also don't try to do too much. Don't expand the zone when the bases are loaded and try to be the hero. If he's going to walk you, then take your walk and we'll take the run. And we saw that a couple times in this series where the Reds walked in a guy, and we saw, Urias get hit by a pitch with the bases loaded too. So whatever it takes to get that guy to touch home plate. And so we started to see that after Sunday's disaster in that regard. In this series, they were much better at finding a way to get that guy home. And I know people love to talk about batting average with runners in scoring position, and that's not a good stat. And it's not a great stat, but there is something about runner on second base, nobody out. We have to find a way to get that guy in, at least that one guy. So there is something to the idea of just having good at bats with guys on base. And I think that's what we're starting to see, or at least that's what we did see for 3 games. It's only 3 games. So until you do it with more consistency than the Mariners have so far, there's always going to be in the back of your head, hey, is this legit? Is this just a one-off? Blah, blah, blah. But, just based on the evidence we have right now, I'd say the Mariners offense does look like it's turned a corner. And again, they put up 17 runs in these 3 games, and they absolutely obliterated the middle of the Reds bullpen in this series.
Yeah, Josh Rojas came through with a pinch hit home run in this game. His WRC plus is now up to 169. Nice, plus 100. And for those of you that care, and I know a lot of you do, Eugenio Suarez right now, 78 WRC plus. Matt Chapman right now, I believe, an 86 WRC plus. Just saying. Just
so would you say that Rojas has been better?
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say that.
At the end of the day, through 20 games, the Mariners' third base platoon has worked out above any reasonable expectation.
Right. Yeah, that has not been the problem at all. It's actually been one of the better aspects of the Mariners roster here through the first 19 games of the season. And would you look at that for all the hand wringing over the last couple of weeks and all the angst, etc.? The Mariners are 1 game out of first place in the American League West right now, folks.
It's almost like 16 games isn't a good sample size.
Right.
And who would have thunk it?
And again, like you mentioned, you never know. Baseball is weird, any given day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they have a really good opportunity here to get to 500 and potentially above, going to Colorado to play one of the worst teams in baseball starting this Friday. So we're going to talk more about Julio Rodriguez and Mitch Garver, who both had really good days at the plate today, in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners postgame show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, that's LOCKDON, and make your first bet an automatic win. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon, LOCKDON. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Thank you again for making us your first listen after the Mariners' 5-1 victory over the Cincinnati Reds to secure their first sweep of 2024. We're going to keep on talking here about this Mariners offense, which was great in this series. And a big part of that today, Mitch Garver and Julio Rodriguez, who've been shockingly 2 of the Mariners' weakest bats here in the early going this season. Colby, do you think this game will serve as the turning point for both of these guys?
Well, you sure do hope it's the start of something new because they have struggled quite a bit this year. But Julio, quietly getting numbers back up. He's at 219 now for an average, which, I mean, not good. But he was at like 158 a few days ago. And today we saw him actually line drives, like not ground balls, line drives. That, one of them over the head of Stuart Fairchild, who, by the way, quick side note, any lineup that requires Stuart Fairchild to be hitting third, that's a managerial issue. David Bell should be fired for even suggesting that.
Especially when you have Jake Fraley, Ellie De La Cruz, who's incredibly talented, had a home run. Like, I mean, you have Stuart Fairchild hitting over that guy, hitting over those
Jonathan
guys.
India hitting leadoff, who sucks, by the way.
Terrible.
And you have Stuart Fairchild hitting third. I don't think did India get a hit?
No, he was 0 for 12 with 7 Ks, I believe, in the series. Mariners legend, by the way.
Remember all the Reds fans who demanded Bryce Miller for Jonathan India?
Yeah.
And had the nerve to be like, oh, you're an idiot if you don't do that, if you're Seattle.
Right.
Like, in fact, you might have to add a little bit more.
Right. Well, he won Rookie of the Year, Colby.
Sure. So did Kyle Lewis. I'm not giving up Bryce Miller for him either.
Yeah.
Stuart Fairchild hitting third. Jonathan India hitting
ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Really?
Terrible.
That's okay. I mean, maybe David Bell's not good at his job. I'm just throwing that out there.
It's possible.
It's
Mariners legend, though. Just like Jonathan India.
Sure. I mean,
he was on the receiving end of Ichiro's Star Wars throw.
Sure. Bell, much more of a Mariners legend than Jonathan India, although I still think we're stretching the definition of legend, even in a facetious manner, to ascribe that to David Bell. To me, Jose Guillen is more of a Mariners legend than David Bell.
I don't know about that.
So, hey, Jose Guillen had a really good year. You hope Julio and you hope that Garver have kind of started to figure it out. There's been glimpses of Garver just kind of, slowly coming out of this, but it's always been like, I have 2 really bad games. And you're like, oh, well, and then like he had what should have been the go-ahead double against the Cubs. And it was just a rope, a easy double 95% of the time. And Morel makes the play on it. And you're like, oh, that sucks. Well, maybe this is, and then the next day he strikes out 3 times and you're just kind of like, it's been a back and forth kind of thing where it feels like every time he takes a step forward, he takes 2 steps back and he's just kind of trying to get back to level. But again, it's been a lot of whiffs and a lot of chasing. That's been a bit of the concern with Garver. But yeah, we know this guy can hit. We know that he's a good hitter. We know that he's certainly better than what he's producing right now. So I do think that at some point Garver will click. And so anytime that we see a good game like he had today, you're kind of in the back of your head, you're going like, yeah, this could be it. This could be the one that kind of turns it around, because we just know what type of hitter he is. And it's nice that he finally got to see a lefty as well. That certainly does help. So, you hope this is it for Garver, but we've kind of seen games similar to this already this year, and then they've typically been followed by really disappointing games. So let's see him string a couple of these together in a row, but I'm certainly not giving up on Garver's bat by any stretch.
Yeah, but really good game for Garver today, and that's exactly what he needed. And hopefully, again, that's kind of the kick in the rear end that he needs right now. And same for Julio, because again, Julio entering this game had 1 extra base hit. He gets 2 in this game. And
can we talk about Julio real fast?
Yeah, he had a really good series.
Yes,
especially defensively. Last night was just a ridiculous,
pretty much won the game.
Yeah, ridiculous defensive performance by Julio last night.
5% catch probability on the Spencer Steer liner, and he actually overran it.
Like, I know. He got in front. He was in front of that ball by the time he caught it.
You know how she's like, oh, he beat the ball to the spot, or he met the ball at the spot, and that's usually accompanied by like diving and like getting there like without a wasted step. And it's like, no, Julio could have actually wasted a step or 2 and still gotten to that ball, and that just speaks to how freakishly fast,
unreal athlete.
5% catch probability on that. So I believe to qualify as a 5-star catch, you need a 25% catch probability or lower. So is there a platinum
7-star,
catch? And
7-star catch.
Robbed. Yeah, like Julio may have been robbed of the Gold Glove last year. It seems like he's taking it personally, because as disappointing as he's been at the plate, he's been very good defensively. And then of course the Ellie De La Cruz, throwing out Ellie De La Cruz.
Always hustle, folks. Always hustle.
Yes, especially if you're Jake Fraley.
Yeah.
Insert joke about what here. But anyways, and the fun thing about the Ellie De La Cruz throw is that he didn't even really like get to crow hop, or like he kind of threw it like a shortstop, like off of his back foot and just trying to get it in quickly.
Yeah.
He didn't really even get all the way behind it, and it's still just perfectly thrown ball, and give Rojas credit for going to get it and applying the tag and knowing not to just wait for the ball to get to him. So Julio defense has been good all year, but even offensively, I think he had 5 hits in this series. 5 or 6 hits in the series, a couple of them doubles. Still want to see him get to his pull side a little bit more.
Still striking out a lot lot more than you would like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Still chasing a little bit. Again, not driving the ball in the air to his pull side, but a couple doubles, screaming line drive doubles today is certainly a good sign. And he did more than enough. He did his part more than enough in the series, both offensively and defensively. A couple stolen bases as well. Julio kind of starting to come out of it. Again, got to stack it for a couple more games before we kind of declare Julio's back, and you want to see him get to his pull side and hit a couple bombs and all that stuff. But something to keep in mind, in his rookie year, Julio didn't hit a home run until May 1st, and he finished the year with 27, and that was with him missing about 30 games.
Yep.
So when the power comes, it's going to come in bunches. Like if he has another series like this in Colorado this weekend, then I think the following week against Texas and
Coors Field, by
Arizona,
the way, great ballpark to get your first home run of the season.
Sure. So yeah, and then next week when they play Texas and Arizona, then I think if he can continue what he did today against the Reds, that is when we will see him just unleash, Super Saiyan power and remind the world that he's one of the best, like, on the planet at what he does. And we've seen some glimpses of it in this series. Now it's just time to put it all together. And the sooner he does that, the sooner we can really dream about this Mariners roster, because it is very talented.
Yeah, because if Julio and then Garver, who had a great day today, if they can both get it together with the way that the role players in this lineup are playing right now, guys like we mentioned earlier, like Josh Rojas, Mitch Haniger has been excellent. Another RBI for him today. If you can get Garver, Julio, Cal, who had a monster home run, his second from the right side of the plate today, and JP, who had a couple of hits last night. Once those guys get it going, again, with the way that Haniger and Rojas, etc., the way they're hitting the ball right now, and the way they're seeing the ball, Polanco as well, this lineup can be very dangerous, right? And I think this series was kind of the proof of concept of that.
Certainly was.
Yeah.
Say it with me in the comments, folks. You've been MITCH-SLAPed.
That's right.
Matt?
That's right. That's going on the thumbnail.
That's right.
That's going on the thumbnail. All right. So any closing thoughts? Any closing wisdom, Mr. Patnode?
Just that the Mitches be crazy. And
they do.
Yeah.
Mitch on a Haniger, that is, on an 8-game hitting streak right now.
Sure. Didn't have a particularly great day at the plate. He was trying to yank everything into CenturyLink or Quest or Lumen, whatever it's called now. Right. And then finally he got a pitch that he could actually do it on, and he got that RBI single. But the main Mitch is holding it down, and side Mitch is working on his game, and he'll get there. Like, you never doubt the side Mitch. He is very, very powerful and dangerous. So
sure.
Mo Mitch is Mo problem for the Cincinnati Reds, that is. So yeah, let's do this, Mitch.
All right.
Other cool. Mitch puns.
Yeah. Insert other post. Yeah, insert other Mitch puns here. Give us your best Mitch pun down in the comments below. That's our challenge. Let us know if you
want a UJ Scott MITCH-SLAP shirt.
That's right.
We probably won't make it, but it's just nice to know.
Right, sure.
I mean, that's Ty's job, but
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for our show. But before we get out of here, once again, a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Dane Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace, Mitches.